Sunny by Jason Reynolds, Chapter 5. Dear Diary, it's Tuesday, and Tuesday is my favorite day until Thursday, because Tuesday is when me and Aurelia go to the hospital, and Thursday is when we go again. I know what you're thinking. Hospitals are places people don't like to go, which is exactly the reason I love them. My grandfather works there, and we have a thing we do to bring some happy to the people who don't want to be there, but have to be. Aurelia always brings me breakfast on these days. Sausage sandwiches. So we skip the pancakes with all the cooking and measuring and jump to the eating. By the way, sausage sandwiches are always a quadrillion times better than TV dinners, that's for sure. At the hospital, we never have to sign in, ever. It's like we're VIP people or something. VIP, not VIP people. That would be very important people. And even though I consider myself kind of a people person, I'm not a very important person. Just a VIP. Actually, not even a VIP. Just a kid who doesn't have to sign in at the hospital because everybody, especially Miss Melinda, who sits at the front desk, knows I'm Dr. Lancaster's grandson. Me and Aurelia sat down in the waiting area. There are always other people waiting, some possibly even waiting for their grandfathers too, but for different reasons. Many people's faces look like water, like if you poke their cheeks, their skin would ripple forever. A lot of times they sit in the chairs in an uncomfortable way, in a way that makes me feel like they don't have arms. Like they can't quite turn, can't adjust, can't feel normal until that grandfather they're waiting for comes walking through the double doors. Then my grandfather came walking through the double doors. More like he came strutting out. He always struts. The old dude walks like walking was made just for him. Like, oh yeah, you see me, walking. He walks like he's holding back from dancing. Diary, do you remember Gramps? You remember him, right? Well, he's still good as he was the last time you heard about him. He's still helping people, still bouncing back and forth from the waiting room to his patient's room to his office, which is kind of like a tattoo shop. The only difference is the tattoo shop has posters of the outside of people's bodies, and my grandfather's office had posters of the inside of people's bodies. His office is where he always takes us first, which is where I told him Daryl was mad. Gramps asked why, and I told him because I quit running. And then Aurelia shouted, "Freedom!" Gramps ignored Aurelia, asked me why I quit, since I'd been running my whole life. I told him I've only been running because of my mother, because of my father, because of my mother. He said because my mother was a runner. Duh. I didn't say that, but I thought it. What I said was, and she was also a dancer, so I'd rather move. He looked at Aurelia. She looked away. Gramps said running is moving. I said, no, dancing is. Gramps' face turned into a question mark, and mine into a period. Dear Diary, me and Aurelia don't come to the hospital to visit Gramps. I mean, we do, but we don't. We come to visit other people's Grampses, and other people's Aurelias, and sometimes even other people's Sunnies. We go to visit patients, not to bring them cards or flowers or gifts. We bring them something much better. The boomity boom and the tickety tick. I'm talking the boom tick tick boom. But first, we have to walk through all the beep beep beeps it takes to get to the cancer ward. Diary, how could a word that rhymes with dancer be so bad? Not to mention answer, prancer, and romancer. Speaking of romancers, Mr. McGaffey, he has no hair, nowhere. He's recovering after having another tumor cut out of him. Another night under the knife, another day on the drip. That's what he said when Gramps asked him how he was. But he loves Aurelia. Always teases her by saying her name felt funny in his mouth. I laughed at that because that's what I love most about it too. Aurelia. Miss Jenkins. We never met her before. She's new to the ward. Breast cancer. She's young, and when we came in, she was still adjusting her wig. We told her it looked good because it did. She didn't believe us. She was also looking at a life insurance commercial. I told her she didn't need that. That's only for old people. JJ, whose real name is Jennifer. I used to call her Mrs. Jennifer, but she doesn't like to be called Mrs. anything. And even though she's too old for me to call her by her first name, she used to insist I call her just Jennifer. So I used to call her just Jennifer, which eventually became JJ. Has lung cancer. She wears the reddest lipstick I've ever seen. Ian, who is my age and reads manga comics all day, has a brain tumor. Gorgeous John, his real name, has cancer in his pancreas. Miss Felicia has stomach cancer and only watches the news, and always gets mad when we come in, and says the world's in too much danger for dancing. But we dance anyway, and anyway, she likes it. Me and Aurelia dance for each of them. 5, 6, 7, 8, shrug and kick and slide back. Clap and dab and body roll spin. Shrug and kick and slide back. Clap and dab and body roll spin. And they all laugh and bob and clap and smile. Today, Miss Jenkins even snatched her wig off and swung it around in the air like a hair flag. Dear Diary, Mr. Rufus deserves his own entry. He's much older than me, but cool. I don't know what kind of cancer Mr. Rufus has, but I know he's had it for a long time. But he's always fun to visit, always so happy, even though his voice is weak. Like when someone wakes you up too early on your birthday, and your voice isn't all the way turned on yet, but you're still excited. That's how Mr. Rufus sounds. Whenever I see him, I do my weirdo wave, and he does a weirdo wave, which is basically just a wave. Because, Diary, I don't know if you know this or not. Don't know why you would, but waving is always weird. It always comes across as yikes. Anyway, Mr. Rufus has bright eyes with saggy bags under them, and the brightest teeth I've ever seen. Like tiny TV screens lined up side by side. He always brags about how they're all still his, but judging by the way the nurse rolls her eyes every time he says it, I think he might be lying. But that's not the reason he deserves his own page in you. He deserves his own page because he is by far the best bed dancer I've ever seen. I mean, he really knows what he's doing. He always tells me about how he used to be a dancer on a TV show back in the day called Soul Train. I believe him when he says this. You ever heard of that show, Diary? I've never seen it, but Mr. Rufus and Aurelia and Gramps all say it was some kind of dance show. That bands would perform and young people would be dressed up on national TV showing off their booms and ticks. I asked Mr. Rufus if Cher ever came on there to perform some of her music. He just laughed at that. Not sure why. She makes great dance music. But what I do know is that Mr. Rufus can tick with the best of them. I've seen him do it. Turn his body into real-life stop-motion animation. And even though he was good at ticking, he said spinning and sliding were his specialties back in the day, and the crowd always went crazy when he did a split. Diary, I tried to do a split once. It didn't go good. Or feel good. Anyway, when me and Aurelia and Gramps get to Mr. Rufus's room, he always adjusts the bed just enough so that he's not lying flat. And when the music comes on, he starts bopping around and jamming in the bed as if he's trying to break loose, break free. Maybe he is. It's like he understands what dancing is for. It's not just to watch, it's to do. To somehow remind yourself that you're still you. That whoever the invisible you is, the you that only talks to you, it's still alive and can add, in Mr. Rufus's words, love, peace, and soul to the world. Dear Diary, have you ever heard of Salisbury steak? It's like a hamburger drenched in a special sauce, which I guess is called Salisbury sauce. They serve it in the cafeteria at the hospital. Aurelia told me a while ago that Salisbury is a place, and let me tell you, the first chance I get, I'm going there. There's probably this sauce just raining down from the sky. Actually, that would be pretty messy. But maybe it's like lakes full of it. That would be better. And if that's true, I might try a new sport. Swimming. Dear Diary, it's Technique Tuesday, and usually at practice I would be working on my stride. But now I don't really have a stride to work on. So it was weird. I did the usual stretches, and while I was touching my toes and Aaron was counting out the numbers, and while Coach and Whit were off to the side looking at the clipboard, probably putting a line through my name, Lynn, who also runs the mile, asked me why I was even stretching since I'm not a runner no more. But the way she said it, it was like she gave each word teeth. I told her I'm still a runner, I just don't run. She said that don't make sense. I wanted to tell her sense don't have to be made. It already exists. She would have said that's stupid. She also said I was the best in the whole league and that I'm stupid to quit. So I got the stupid anyway. And that's when Patty jumped in. And before she could shoot her own teeth words at Lynn, Lou jumped in to calm Patty down. Then he made a speech to everybody about how sometimes things change in life and how I've made a change and how I'm still on the team and should be supported. I appreciated that. But then Brit Brat called him Dr. Phil. It was a joke. I kind of appreciated that too. And then Aaron challenged Lou, told him he should run my race since he's so supportive. He said supportive in a not very supportive way. Then Coach came out of nowhere and yelled at everyone, shutting it down. And all I could think about was how there is no way, 0 way, Lou can run a mile. No way. No way. But I think he'd try. Dear Diary, all this time I had no idea there was a concrete circle on the field. Let me explain. The track goes around a field, and in the field, down by the first 200 curve, there's a concrete circle, like a bald spot. Never noticed it before. I guess the grass has always been just tall enough to disguise it. Coach said that bald spot would be my new home. He said all my greatness is going to come out of that small space, and that what I do in that circle will affect how far I go outside of it, or something like that. You know Coach. Actually, Diary, you don't know Coach. But if you did, you'd know that sometimes he be speaking in Shakespeare. Since it's Technique Tuesday, and because I don't know nothing about throwing the discus, Coach wanted to just walk me through the steps. He kept telling me it was just like dancing, and to remember the whoosh part of my dance. The spin. Except it was going to be a double spin. A whoosh whoosh. Actually, a whoosh whoosh, then a release. That's what Coach said. So a whoosh whoosh, I corrected him. He just nodded, took my word for it, then showed me the steps. Number 1, stand straight, bend knees just a little. Number 2, spread arms like wings. Number 3, wind body back and forth with hands straight and stiff, cutting the air. Number 4, count to 3. Number 5, on 3, spin right leg 230 degrees around. Coach said, not 360, but not 180. I told him 230. That's the first whoosh. I repeated those steps again and again and again and again, until practice was over. Coach said the second whoosh was coming tomorrow. I asked him, when do I actually get to throw the discus? He said, first I gotta learn how to whoosh whoosh, and then my wish will be granted. Dear Diary, Daryl asked me how practice was, which was a good sign that the mad was maybe unmadding. And I told him about the discus and the whooshing and the whoosh whooshing, and how Lou stood up for me, and how Aaron told him to run a mile, and how there's no way he could ever run a mile, because he's never run for longer than 10 seconds at a time. And to run a mile like me, you have to be okay with running for forever. And then Daryl cracked a little smile. Not enough to be a real smile, but still a crack in the stone. When we got home, I made a TV dinner. When I say made, I mean microwaved. It was chicken, mashed potatoes, and peas. It all tasted like chicken, mashed potatoes, and peas. If chicken, mashed potatoes, and peas were made of plastic and were melted. Daryl made one for himself, and while we were eating, Daryl said Gramps called him. What'd he say? That's what I said. Daryl said Gramps said he should talk to me about why I quit. And as I tried to find my words, the doorbell rang. I can't figure out if the doorbell loves me or hates me. If that was an interruption or some kind of bailout. It was Mr. Nico at the door. He came in like he usually comes in, singing, Do you believe in life after love? By the lady Cher. Mr. Nico is the reason I even know who she is, because he's always singing that song. And whenever he does, it's in a jokey joke way, as a sign to let my father know that he's going to ask him about dating his sister, Miss Linda. And that meant that Mr. Nico and my father were going to step outside and smoke cigars and talk in private. And I hate the way cigars smell, and I hate the way my father and Mr. Nico talk. So I went into the family room to work on the puzzle by myself. So far, we only had the border complete, and the top of my mother's head and forehead. And I was trying to find her eyes. But, Diary, you would be surprised how many puzzle pieces look like eyes, or parts of eyes. Eyelashes, eyeballs. But I got the whole left one done and most of the right, then went upstairs to my room to try and close both of mine. Dear Diary, it's late and I can't sleep, because the quiet has been unquieted. Sound, coming through my bedroom door. I wish it was something cool like harps or drums, or even the weird creaking of this big house settling, as Daryl sometimes says. But no, it's just my father choking on his own snore, choking on his own sleep. He probably needs to adjust, roll over or something. He's not choking. No, I don't think he's choking at all, actually. I think he might be crying.